Large concerts have strange effects on people, but this one seemed to be more of a ritual, resulting in 10 deaths. Follow me down the rabbit hole about Astroworld. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the rabbit hole. I'm your host, Danny, and today we are talking about Astroworld. With the recent release of the documentary, Astroworld has kind of gained some more popularity again, because it was pretty popular when it happened. Popular is probably not the right word, right? There were a lot of theories coming out when it first happened, and then it kind of went away, but Netflix just released a documentary called Trainwreck, Astroworld Tragedy, and so everyone's curious about it again. So now we're going to cover the conspiracies. So thank you, Case, Ray, Juliana, and Nadine for requesting this episode. I hope you guys love it. And of course, before we get into it, guys, I love to thank my sponsors because I wouldn't be here without you guys listening and without my sponsors supporting us. So if you want gold and silver delivered straight to your front door for as little as $50 a week, go to rabbithole.gold right now. Wise Wolf Gold does a fantastic job of supporting our show, so thank you, Wise Wolf Gold, for the sponsorship. I love it. Guys, rabbithole.gold tells them that you were sent there from my podcast. And if you are not yet, you can watch this episode on YouTube and on Rumble. Both those links are in the show notes. And if you're on YouTube and Rumble and you want to just listen to the audio version, go to wherever you listen to podcasts. Spotify does seem to be like the most popular place, but Apple is a great place. There's a couple other places as well. So check it out. But let's dive in. Astroworld Festival was a music festival run by rapper Travis Scott in Houston, Texas. Before we get too into the festival, let's learn a bit more about Travis Scott. Born Jack Berman Webster III on April 30th, 1991 in Houston, Texas, he is professionally known as Travis Scott. During his younger years, he lived with his grandmother in South Park, Houston. The area was known for crime and had a huge impact on Travis because he remembers thinking to himself that he needed to get out of that area, that it just wasn't a good place to be. Eventually, he did move back in with his parents in Missouri City, which is more like a middle-class suburban area. Travis's father had a huge impact on him. He was an entrepreneur and a soul musician, and his grandfather was a jazz composer, so he had music going back generations. After graduating high school, he attended University of Texas at San Antonio, but dropped out his second year to pursue his music career. He said he chose the name Travis after his favorite uncle and the surname Scott after one of his biggest inspirations, Kid Cudi, whose name is Scott Mescudi. Before being a solo artist, Travis formed a duo with his friend Chris Holloway, known as The Graduates, in 2008. They released their first EP on MySpace. If you are too young to know what MySpace is, it was basically like Facebook before Facebook existed, and now that's what we have. MySpace is gone. The following year, he and one of his friends from school formed the group The Classmates. They released Buddy Rich that same year and Cruisin' USA in 2010. He moved to New York City after leaving university and slept on the floors of friends' houses and spent most of his time in the studio trying to get his music career kind of up and going. But he didn't stay in New York long because he didn't feel like he was getting anywhere with his career. So after only 4 months, he moved to Los Angeles. After a little bit of a back and forth type situation, he ended up, again, just sleeping on friends' couches. And luckily, T.I., an Atlanta-based rapper and the owner of Grand Hustle Records, heard Travis's song Lights, Lovesick. One of T.I.'s representatives then contacted Travis and asked him to a studio meeting. In 2013, he was named on the XXL magazine's annual freshman class list. This is a list of 10 to 12 artists to watch, and it comes out every single year. So that same year, 2013, Logic appeared on the list as well. He then released his commercial debut single, Upper Echelon, which featured 2 Chainz and T.I., followed by his debut mixtape, Owl Pharaoh. In 2014, he performed at the Texas Music Festival South by Southwest. After that, his single Don't Play, which he did perform at South by Southwest, was released, followed by the second mixtape, Days Before Rodeo. And that mixtape was so successful that he went on a headlining tour called the Rodeo Tour. On that tour, Young Thug was the opener, and guest appearances were made by Kanye West and Chris Brown. In 2015, his album Rodeo was released. The album featured high-profile guests, again, Kanye West, along with The Weeknd and Justin Bieber, just to name a couple. There was actually a lot of guests on that album. The album debuted at #1 on the Billboard Rap Albums chart. In 2016, he released Birds in the Trap Sing McKnight. This was a #1 album on the Billboard 200. 2017 was a big year for Travis Scott. So he started the year with the performance at the NBA's All-Star Weekend. He launched his own record label, Cactus Jack Records, and he started dating Kylie Jenner that year. They had actually met at Coachella and had kind of a whirlwind of a year, with them announcing her pregnancy in September of 2017. And he collaborated on a number of songs with other artists, as well as dropped a collaboration album with Quavo in December called Huncho Jack, Jack Huncho. Kylie and Travis welcomed their baby Stormy in February 2018. He also planned to launch the Astroworld Music Festival and the Astroworld album later that year. The festival first happened on November 17th, 2018. It featured artists such as Young Thug, Post Malone, Metro Boomin, and Travis Scott, of course. 2019 saw Travis making a guest appearance during the Super Bowl halftime show with Maroon 5. He was also featured on a single for the HBO series Game of Thrones. Later that year, Netflix released the documentary Mom, Look, I Can Fly. And this documentary was based on the Astroworld development. Astroworld Music Festival happened for a second time that year. It was just a single day still, November 16th, but it had an expanded lineup because the first year was such a hit. So this time it included artists from other genres alongside hip-hop artists such as Marilyn Manson. In 2020, Travis performed virtual shows because the whole world was shut down. Although they were on a break, he and Kylie decided to quarantine together so that way they could co-parent, which actually ended up rekindling their relationship. Due to COVID-19, most everything was canceled to include the Astroworld Festival from 2020. Because he had so much extra time in 2020, he was working on new music the whole time, which a lot of artists did. They needed to put their creative energy somewhere. So he released several singles in 2020 and teased a new album, Utopia, which he didn't actually release until 2023. In 2021, he and Kylie officially broke up. He also announced a multi-day return of Astroworld. Travis was on Drake's song Fair Trade on his album Certified Lover Boy, which you can connect the dots there. Drake is a huge creep, and you are the company you keep, so. 2 months before Astroworld, it was revealed that Travis and Kylie Jenner would be having a second baby. Their son Air was born in February 2022. But let's talk about Astroworld. This music festival is held in Houston, Texas at NRG Park, which is near the former site of Six Flags Astroworld. So Travis wanted the festival because he wanted to bring back the beloved spirit and nostalgia of Astroworld Six Flags, which closed in 2005. But he grew up going to the park and loves amusement parks. And Travis being from Houston, he wanted to bring a major music festival to the area, and it was highly anticipated by the fans. Netflix even made the documentary about the creation of the festival called Mom, Look, I Can Fly, which I mentioned a little bit ago. The success of the 2018 festival was so great, the festival returned in 2019 even bigger with more artists from more genres. The 2020 festival was canceled, as with most things, because of COVID-19. And that brought us to the 2021 Astroworld Festival, the last Astroworld Festival to happen. The tickets went on sale in May 2021, and this time the festival is going to be 2 days long, November 5th and 6th. And the tickets were sold out in 30 minutes. Leading up to the festival was a week's worth of activities called Astro Week. This included celebrity softball and golf events, which supported the Cactus Jack Foundation, pop-up stores with a sneaker collaboration with Nike, and unveiling a community garden at a local elementary school that was dedicated to Travis's grandmother. And she was at the dedication. The lineup for the show included Earth, Wind, and Fire, SZA, Chief Keef, Bad Bunny, Master P, who we talked about a little bit in the Pimp C episode, Young Thug, and so many more. Astroworld 2021 wasn't the first time the crowd got rowdy at a Travis Scott concert. So I want to kind of paint this picture because he had a way of riling the people up at his concerts. He pulls people on stage. There's a lot of stage diving. He is often seen telling security not to interfere when they're trying to stop someone from doing something at the concert. And he's had his people go get fans that were actually kicked out of a concert and then brings them back into the concert on stage with him. All this to say, no one had ever died before the events of November 5th, 2021. So when the gates opened, fans started running inside. But not everyone waited for the gates to open. Like, fans were pushing down the fences that blocked the festival area to get in, which also happened at the 2018 festival. It might have happened at the 2019 festival, but because that wasn't the first festival and it also wasn't the last or the Deadly festival, there isn't a lot of information about the 2019 festival. We've kind of just breezed over that one. So people were tripping over each other in the fences trying to get into the festival. They knocked over the metal detectors the police were using for security purposes. They knocked over almost the whole security tent. Police were trying to pull people off fences and arrest them. It was out of control. The crowd was shooting fireworks and the energy was so palpable. It was just chaos. And that was how the day started. So imagine just how it went as the day went on. Once inside, the festival felt like an amusement park, which was the point, right? So there were carnival games, there was rides, there was a roller coaster and a Ferris wheel. It was supposed to be this really fun Astroworld experience. The merch tent was huge and it had about 12 lines, and fans still waited 4 hours in line to buy a shirt. There were artists playing on different stages all day, but around 9 p.m. it was time for Travis to take his stage, which nobody else had played on during the day. The fans reported that as the countdown clock got lower, the fans behind them kept pushing forward, which is typical for a headliner of a festival. So everyone tries to push their way to the front of the crowd or to get a good place where they can actually see the headliner. So as the anticipation's building, everyone kind of moves forward. People were reporting that it was hard to breathe before Travis even took the stage because there were so many people packed together. Once the music started, there was a surge, a wave from the back of the crowd to the front of people pushing forward, and then that same wave ended up coming back. And then sometimes these waves would come together and kind of clash. So as the crowd was being squeezed on both sides, people really couldn't breathe. Concert goers reported not being able to take a deep breath, which ended up causing panic. There were barricades that were supposed to keep an emergency walkway down the middle of the crowd, and then also a parallel walkway about a third of the way back from the front, and then at the very back was the sound booth that was completely barricaded off as well. So people started trying to get over these barricades because they were being so squeezed from the crowd. And I mean, the people were literally packed like sardines in the crowd. They couldn't move. There wasn't a whole lot of dancing, really. There was swaying with the movement of the crowd, but because of the tightness of the conditions, it would actually cause people to trip. And once you trip, it was so tight that you literally could not stand back up unless somebody reached down and pulled you back up. And even security guards were helping to pull people over the barricades to safety because they could see that they were struggling to breathe and how panicked these people were at this concert. And on the ground, it wasn't just one person that had fallen. It was layers of people that had fallen because so many people were on the ground. So people would report that they fell down, they could feel somebody below them, and then somebody else would fall on top of them. But again, the crowd was so tight that they couldn't get off the ground. And in an attempt to stay upright, other people were stepping on the people that were on the ground, which was causing tramplings. Concert goers tried to get help. Many people called 911 trying to report that they needed help at the concert. They stated that the show needed to stop because there were people trampled. And another couple people climbed the camera platform trying to stop the show to get help to the people that were on the ground. They were trying to get the camera to look on the ground. They were trying to get Travis Scott's attention, anything they could do to stop the show. The paramedics that were contracted for the show were reporting back to the command post that they were actively performing CPR on people, which is it's not a thing that happens very frequently at concerts. There were cardiac situations being reported all over the place. At one point, Travis noticed an ambulance golf cart trying to get through the crowd about 30 minutes into his performance, which, by the way, people were already not breathing before the performance. So 30 minutes in, these people are already dead probably on the ground. And all he had to say about this ambulance was, "What the fuck is that?" And then he basically like went back to performing. And the show continued on. At one point, he did pause momentarily to bring attention to one person that was passed out and asked for security to come and get this person. That was like he could see they were kind of closer to the front. That was about 41 minutes into the show. That guy was fully limp. The concert goers picked him up and like crowd surfed him out of the concert to the security people and the police that instantly started doing CPR and trying to do life-saving measures on this man. It is believed that he was already dead. But after that, after noticing that guy, Travis went right back to performing. As people were literally chanting, "Stop the show," he just kept going. There were still people being trampled all over the crowd. This was mostly happening on the left side of the stage because of how the stage was set up and how people moved to get around the stage. So when moving from the other stage where all the other artists had performed to Travis's stage, people were entering the stage area or the audience area from the left side. So a lot of people just piled in to the left side of the stage because that was more convenient instead of walking all the way around like the audio booth and all the things that are in the backside and going to the right side of the stage. So there were technically less people on the right side of the stage. Although when you're looking at the pictures or the videos of it, it looks like there's just a lot of people everywhere. But especially you see this in like the Netflix documentary, a lot of the stuff is happening in the left side because there was a lot more people packed into that. Although that guy that he had noticed that was limp and that they crowd surfed out, he was actually on the right side. So I'm not saying that it didn't happen all over the concert. I'm just saying that it definitely happened on the left side. But at the same time, as the guy was being pulled from the crowd at Travis's request, there is a video of another part of the venue of a security guard talking to another security guard stating, quote, "He doesn't have a pulse," basically like pointing to this guy on the ground. And then continued, "There's like 4 people out here without a pulse." Still, the concert continued. So you've got at least 4 people, potentially 5, with the guy in the front without pulses, and you're just going to let it keep going. Like usually at concerts, there are a number of people that have the power to end or at least delay the show. So you got police, fire, and EMS that all should be able to like radio back to command post and tell them that the show needed to stop. And anyone from Live Nation, which is who is putting on the concert and who puts on most live events in the country, should be able to stop the show. But at this event, there were only 2 people that were able to stop the show, that had the power to actually just say, "Hey, like, let's take a chill pill," which is odd in and of itself. And then the Houston Police Department, that had been receiving the 911 calls asking for help, stating people were being trampled, were trying to get a hold of the Live Nation manager to get him to stop the show, but he was nowhere to be found. He was just like missing. Even a Live Nation photographer who was there to photograph the show said she was surprised that the show was still going on with the number of injuries that she was witness to. And she has photographed a bunch of Live Nation events and has seen many artists stop shows if they feel like their fans are in danger. Eventually, luckily, the Live Nation manager is found. And he goes backstage to talk to an audio engineer about what was happening in the crowd. So he tells the engineer, quote, "We have 4 active CPRs going on. 2 are most likely dead. It is very, very bad. There are more crush victims than I've ever seen in my 25-year career. We have to have a discussion in his," Travis's, "ears, letting him know what's going on. We need to shut this thing down in 8 minutes at 10 o'clock. So not stop the show right now. There's at least 2 people dead out there. We're doing active CPR on people like there's something seriously wrong. No, 8 minutes. Let's call it a good 10 p.m. The reason the conversation was had with the audio engineer is because he had the actual power to speak into Travis's ears. Although we don't know what, if anything, was actually said to Travis about this situation. But at the same time, another conversation between the police and Live Nation was taking place, which allowed the concert to continue. They're like, yeah, it's probably fine. That's about the time that Drake came on stage. They claim that they didn't want to stop the show because they didn't want the crowd to panic by like the sudden stop, but people were literally in the crowd dying. Maybe they worried that it would cause more people, like, I don't know, more people to be trampled, more people to die. I don't know what their rationale was, but basically they were like, we didn't want to cause mass panic. But like maybe by causing or by stopping the show and even just having Travis be like, hey guys, like we need to pause for a minute because there's a situation in the crowd. Firstly, now you're bringing attention to it. People are paying attention. Maybe they can help save somebody. Also, if you had stopped the concert right then, you could have saved somebody's life. They could have got the help they needed or been escorted out of the crowd so that way they could breathe. People that felt like they couldn't breathe could potentially leave. But instead, they let the concert keep going. And concert goers who could breathe and were just like enjoying the show were completely ignorant to what was happening. They were literally dancing on the ambulance golf cart that was in the crowd. The one that was there to escort the injured and potentially dead people out of the crowd. But they couldn't move it because the crowd was so tight and there was people dancing on the roof. Other concerts have been stopped when even one active CPR is happening. Yet they allowed this concert to continue with at least 4, but there are reports of upwards of 6 people in the medical tent being worked on all at the same time. The concert did finally come to an end at 10:13 p.m. Ambulances then flooded in as the concert goers started to leave the festival for the day. There were clothes and shoes just left all over the place. The police commander did an interview with the local news telling the people if they hadn't heard from their loved one that had come to the concert, then they needed to go to the Family Reunification Center where there are resources to help them find their loved ones. That night, 8 people died. Hundreds of others were injured. In the days after the event, after fighting for their lives, a couple other concert goers succumbed to their injuries. The youngest being only 9 years old. Naturally, night 2 of the festival was canceled because now the festival was an active crime scene. This tragedy could have been prevented. It was not a surprise that Travis Scott likes to entice chaos at his concerts. I mean, look at his Lollapalooza 2015 arrest because he was urging people to jump the barricades into the security pit. He was arrested for disorderly conduct like 3 to 5 songs into his set. The Astroworld venue was said to hold 35,000 people safely, while Live Nation sold 50,000 tickets for the event. Not to mention the fact that people had literally run down the fences and security checkpoints upon entering, so unticketed people were just like, okay, well, I guess I'll go in now. That means that over 15,000 more people were at that venue than could have safely been there. Live Nation willingly did this, knowing they did this. But maybe that's what they wanted. Maybe they wanted it this way. Like, maybe this was all the perfect storm they were trying to conjure up. So concerts are already such a powerful hub for energy. We talk about this with Taylor Swift and Beyonce, how their concerts are satanic rituals. Well, Travis Scott is no different. Many say this concert was a black magic or satanic ritual. Firstly, we have the symbolism for it. For the 2021 festival, the O in Astro was like a target with 4 circles inside the big circle, each of them getting smaller. Although it wasn't a spiral like we see with pedo symbols, it does look like it's trying to put you in a trance. On the website for the festival, there are 2 hands that look like they're trying to reach out and grab you, and on the palms of those hands are eyes. This same website picture is like the poster for Astroworld. If you're watching this episode, I'm going to insert it here. So during the concert, they had the same hands reaching out from the screens trying to, it looked like grab the concert goers, but obviously it was on the screens. The stage was an upside down cross, and the backdrop where all the teleprompters and like screens were, it looked like a mountain scene, like mountains. The same mountain scene can be seen on the website and poster for the festival. There was a hole in the mountain scene. That's where the stage was. It looks like maybe a tunnel or maybe a portal right in the middle of the mountain scene. And the upside down cross was leading you into the tunnel or the portal. During the performance, several times it looked like the mountain was on fire or it had lava flowing down from it. Before Travis made his entrance, the portal had lit up with an orangish red, almost like a fire color, and a phoenix type bird was pictured on the screens above the portal on fire. It looks like maybe it was a portal to hell. Once Travis made his entrance, the screen at the very back of the portal showed an eye, like it was watching you. The slogan for this festival was "Open Your Eyes to a Whole New Universe." And on the poster and website, it shows this depiction of people walking through like a doorway or a gateway. Well, Travis was wearing a shirt that depicted the same thing as well, only his was in color. On the poster, it was just black and white. So before the people go through this doorway or gateway, they are blue. And on the other side, they come out red with horns on their heads. And there's lots of flames during the show and demonic visuals, and the music felt angry almost. From so many reports, the energy didn't feel like it was like a fun, exciting, like concert energy. It felt like it had this really dark and angry undertone to it. And music is the strongest form of magic. It seemed like an energy harvesting ritual. Even people watching the footage back felt the energy. I was reading a Reddit post about it, and the original poster, or OP, mentioned that they felt infected by the dark energy when watching the videos of the event and felt like they couldn't stop watching them. Like they needed to keep watching these videos. And then OP asked if anyone had also felt that same way, and several people in the comments mentioned that they did feel the same way. One person said they didn't know if it was because they read the post first and then they went to watch the videos, but either way, they did feel energy radiating through. And there's actually a really creepy part of the concert that people keep pointing to as eerie. Like basically everyone points to as eerie. And it's that point where Travis kind of like stops the show and he's like, hey, like we need to get security in here. That guy looks like he's passed out. And then as they're crowd surfing this guy out, he's kind of like singing over this guy and he keeps singing, yeah, like over and over, yeah. And just kind of like looking down on him. And it was almost like he was satisfied. He had like the satisfiedness about him because this guy looked completely limp, like he was no longer living. And Travis seemed like singing ritualistically over this body. It's very weird. It was really evil as well, almost like a trance-like state. Travis likes to have the entrance of his festival be a huge blow up of his head, and the people have to walk through the mouth, which is open unnaturally large. I will also insert a picture of that here. He has had this blow up head at all the Astroworld festivals, and it's on the cover of his Astroworld album. The way it looks is like the picture painted in 1575 called Christ in Limbo, which depicts the gates of hell, and it has this Humpty Dumpty looking character with a mouth open like Travis Scott's and people walking through it. Which tells me that every Astroworld festival has been a satanic ritual. This one just happened to be a blood ritual. And there were only 2 people that could stop the concert. Are you kidding me? When normally a situation with one medical emergency would stop the concert. That seems pretty deliberate to me. They didn't want to stop the concert, especially because when one of the 2 people that could stop the concert was like, just finish with the guest and then let's end it. Like, we'll give it a few more minutes. And that guest was Drake, who is a super creep, by the way, who has been photographed with Diddy on a number of occasions, but then again, so has Travis Scott. And isn't it weird how fast Travis Scott became famous? Like, in the Look Mom, I Can Fly documentary on Netflix, there's a video from 2014 of Travis performing, and there were like 15 or 20 people in the crowd. It was very, very small, and he knew at least 5 of them. Then all of a sudden, he releases an album and is going on a headlining tour basically that same year. And huge names were guesting on his tour, Kanye West for one. It feels like he blew up really fast. Granted, he was on the freshman class list of the XXL magazine in 2013, but still, in 2014, you're playing to 15 people in a crowd, and then you go on a headlining tour? What, for 15 people? How did you get so famous so quickly? Unless you sold your soul to the devil. And his apology video from the tragedy seemed completely heartless. Like, he said he felt bad for the victims, but he didn't seem like he did. It kind of felt like he was doing it out of necessity, not because he actually, cared about his fans or the victims that had died. But since then, he has taken down his apology video. It's not even on his Instagram anymore. And in a world where the internet is canceling you for everything, he has continued on like nothing has happened. I mean, he didn't get to headline Coachella the following year, which he was scheduled for, but since then he hasn't really skipped a beat. Leading up to the festival, Travis posted several promotional posters. One of them is what I keep referencing, which is on the website. It's super weird. There's all different kinds of depictions and different weird things. Again, I'll post that here. But the day before the concert, he posted what looked like the front page of a National Enquirer. It says Weekly World Truths as the title of the newspaper. The true dystopia is here, is the headline. Who knows what lies beneath the surface is on like the top as like a blast. And then when the end arrives, it's really the beginning is along the bottom. Well, a dystopia is an imagined world or society in which people lead wretched, dehumanized, fearful lives. The concert seemed a bit dystopian, right? Like people going to a concert to have fun, enjoy live music, and then 10 people end up dead? Some people reported that they actually felt like they were in literal hell at the concert. But also, why would you have "See you on the other side" on the Astroworld posters? Like, what are you talking about? Is he taking everyone through a portal to hell? Other side of what? This feels so satanic, but there are other theories about that night. If not satanic, then maybe they were testing a frequency-based behavioral manipulation technology. They already have frequency-based weapons, as assumed with Havana syndrome, but in this case, they wanted to see if they could get people to act a certain way. The sound frequency would be used to upset, unsettle, and provoke the people in the concert, or a frequency would be used that induced seizures and breathing problems, or, both those things. But it also could have been the frequencies that provoked the people to ensure they got what they wanted from a satanic ritual. It could be both. Some people do point to the COVID vaccine as to why this happened. It's suggested that the vaccine had heavy metals in it, and once tuned to a certain frequency, the people would turn into zombies. And the attendees did have to be fully vaxxed or show a negative COVID test in order to get into the festival. Some believe that the festival wasn't because of Travis at all, but because of the Kardashian curse, because Kylie and Kendall were both in attendance. But you have to remember that Kylie is now pregnant with her second baby from Travis. So they were back together again. And the Kardashian curse really only works once they've broken up. And I did a whole episode on this. So I will link to that episode in the show notes, but it doesn't add up because they were currently dating. They're not anymore, but at the time they were. It's also believed that more than just 10 people died due to the events of that night, but they just aren't telling us the honest numbers. It's kind of hard to know because I was looking for the names of all of the victims, and on one source it'll tell me 10 names, and on another source it tells me 8 names, and on another source it tells me like 9 names or whatever, but sometimes the names aren't the same. So to me, it lends more credibility that they did not tell us all the victims' names, because you have a 10-year-old victim here and a 9-year-old victim here, and they have 2 different names, but then you look at this other source that has 10 names, and neither of those victims are on that source. So I'm starting to think that more people did die that night than they actually told us about. There was also a theory that came out basically right away because people were trying to figure out, how did these people die? What happened at this concert? So one of the things that started circulating is that people were jabbing unknown needles into random concert goers' necks and injecting them with some sort of substance, some sort of drug. I think that has mostly been swept away. I don't think that is a widely accepted theory now. However, that has been happening recently in Paris with a concert that happened over there, is that thousands of people were injected with some unknown substance. So if you go to concerts, be careful. Concerts already are energy harvesting. You get so many people in one area, and the energy is palpable. I've been to a concert where right in the middle, it got really boring, and you could feel it. The energy kind of died off, and we all were tired. And then, a song that everybody knew came on, and we all started singing, and then the concert was over. Well, that probably wasn't a very good energy harvesting concert. Funny enough, those people are no longer making music. But I know with a Travis Scott concert like this, the hype behind Astroworld, the fact that it had been growing and growing 2 years, and then with COVID, and it was one of the first festivals back, people were so excited for this festival. I think that it was expected that people would die. But I don't know for sure. And I don't know if we're going to know. But that's all I have for this one, guys. So until next week, stay skeptical, and I will see you all then. Hey friends, The Rabbit Hole is an independent podcast with everything you hear done by me, Danny Mercy. I appreciate all of your support. Please rate and review wherever you're listening. If you want to follow us on Instagram, it's at rabbit.holepodcast. And thank you, Zakar Balaha, for our awesome intro.